Our role as property managers is different to that of a salesperson. We're not dependent on the next email, call, whatever it is, to earn a living. We're there as administrators and relationship builders and relationship nurturers. At some point, that's got to stop, and that's after business hours. We're not paid, our salaries do not pay us outside. Once the door closes at the office, once we walk out the door, our salary doesn't pay us. It's all well and good to want to give good service. That's fine, and I accept that, and I believe that you can give good service even just during office hours. Setting yourself up to even mentally give people answers outside of office hours, you're creating an expectation to them that you're always available, and that's unrealistic. And I know a lot of people now are going to be going, how dare he say that? Well, I got to tell you, kids, you need a life. You deserve a life. And being available to your clients all the time isn't giving you that. It's not giving you time to shut off. And this is one of the things I used to talk about with my coaching clients when I was running the coaching business up till late last year. If you don't shut off, you're going to burn out. And you're going to start to hate what you do, and you're going to leave. If you love this industry, stop working 18 hours a day, stop being available 18 hours a day, and start to get people to treat you with a little bit of respect for your time.
Welcome to another episode of the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for having me in your ears. When you started in property management, was it what you expected? Or did you think it would be way more glamorous than what it actually is? I thought it was going to be way more glamorous than it actually was. But you know something, I'm actually really starting to fall back in love with certain aspects of property management. But then there are still a lot of aspects that I can't wrap my head around, and I don't know that I'll ever find any joy in them. For starters, I love property. I love the service that we provide, and I love customer service. And I also love the problem that we solve for housing in our communities. And if I'm really honest, a bit of me loves the competitiveness or the competition for the business in our communities. It keeps me on my toes and constantly looking for ways to improve what I offer. On the flip side, though, staffing is a challenge I have long openly struggled with, and it isn't getting any easier. I keep looking at how can I improve my leadership? How can I improve what my business offers? And of course, there's always room for improvements. I know that. I'm finding meeting owners' expectations increasingly hard at times, and I'm finding it difficult to support tenants when I can't help them get into a property or when they have to leave a property because of affordability or unlivability. There are some heartbreaking stories out there right now. But one thing that I am learning is I can't fix everything. Some things are beyond my control, and our businesses are here to provide a service, a very specific service. And that service is to rent the property to good tenants, collect and distribute the rent, and make sure the property is maintained to legislative standards. But we often get caught up in the murky waters, trying to solve way more than we should, wasting time and energy on situations beyond our control, and losing sleep over issues that are quite frankly not ours to worry about. And I know I'm not alone in my struggles here, as I've had so many conversations recently, and everyone is experiencing similar things. So let me introduce my guest, although he really needs no introduction. It's Kirk Stafford, a self-confessed property management dinosaur who is about to embark on a huge milestone of 40 years in the industry. He's recently stepped back into a property management in-office role. He's still doing his coaching, but he is now the head of property management at Wilson Agents. His challenges are exactly like ours, and he generously shares his wealth of knowledge and wisdom in this chat to help find solutions to the struggles we are all currently facing, from staffing and profitability to acquiring rent rolls to respect, work ethics, and finding your peace in property management. We cover it all, so take a listen. Kirk, thank you so much for being on the Property Management Podcast. Yet again, you're no stranger to this podcast, but this time you're stepping back in a bit of a different capacity. You're back on the tools, back in the trenches, running an entire property management division these days. So tell us a little about what you're doing right now, and then we'll talk about some of the fun stuff that goes along with that.
Oh yeah. They told me this would be an easy gig. What? Who was I kidding? Who were they kidding? Really good to see you again, Kylie. When was it last? It was only a month ago, wasn't it? At Solitude.
It was,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can have that ice bath test. I'm never doing that again. I'm just.
Yeah, it was tough. It wasn't very comfortable.
Look, I didn't last. My legs cramped, and that was it. I was out of there like a shot. Never mind. So. Where am I now? I am now head of residential property management for a firm called Wilson Agents in Caulfield. I actually have known this company. Well, we were both part of the Wilson Pride group many years ago. And it was really funny. I walked into the first meeting I had with Adam, the director there, and he looked at me strangely. Some people get this look on their face going, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" I just let him sit on that for about 20 minutes before I dropped it in the conversation that he and I actually used. And then the face just dawned. Realisation came on him. We've got about 1,500 managements. I walked in the door and I was told that my role would be purely running the team, managing the team, which is playing to pretty much all my strengths. And I'd have a small portfolio of a couple of clients. My team at that stage was 14. The team now is 12. I have had, in the 6 months I've been there, in fact it's 6 months and 9 days, I had my 10th outward resignation today, which disappointed me, particularly seeing as this lass has only been with us a couple of months. But that's just part and parcel of where we are in this phase of our sector. Look, 10 outward movements, people will be going, "Oh my God, what's going on? What's wrong?" There's actually nothing wrong. It's actually just been a lot of people self-selecting on their way out the door and clearing the decks for me to reimagine and reinvent the division. I've done 2 restructures. I'm about to do another one. We're bringing another rent roll in. We've just signed contracts on, which is going to increase our size by probably about 200 properties, maybe a few more. And we're bringing one person across with that. So we're going to have probably at least some consistency there. The big thing I'm finding at the moment, though, I've got to tell you, is that there's a lot of PMs out there that just, they're done. They're frazzled. They think changing companies is going to help them. And I've said it, you've probably said it, I've heard so many other people say it, the grass ain't always greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. If you can make a difference, or if you can speak in such a way that your circumstances are going to be different, do so. Don't just jump ship, because it's counterproductive. It'll hurt your own reputation, it'll hurt your career, and it'll certainly hurt both the firm that you're leaving and the firm that you're going to, because you're taking baggage.
Yeah. Oh, look, I feel your pain. I've had 2 property managers leave this year, and 3 sort of support staff roles leave as well. So that's 5 people for my small business. I'm not your size by any stretch of the imagination. And I will always point the finger back at me and like try to work out where I've gone wrong or what improvements I need to make. And I'm at the point now where I couldn't be giving more. In fact, the latest resignation just last week happened after I'd just taken the property manager for 2 days at the PM Reach conference on the Gold Coast, learning all about personal development and taking care of yourself. And, and maybe that was the problem. Maybe she realized that there was a lot of work she needed to do and property management wasn't for her any longer. I'm not sure. But I'm lost for answers at the moment, Kirk. I don't know. Is it me? Is it, what is it? What is going on? And we're not alone. I know this.
And I've asked myself that same question. I started because I had, within 3 weeks of starting with Wilson, I had 2 resignations. I went, great, they're the 2 people that had been as ones who we needed to find a way of managing out of the business. One of the people was the leasing consultant who had nothing to do because there's nothing for lease, the properties we got, and he knew it, and there'd been discussions that had been had before I got there. So we knew that one was coming up. The other one was one of the PMs and I've got to say this very kindly because I think anyone listening will know who she is if they're in my circle, who really tried to play us or play the company for a pay rise. She got a pay rise and still came in to me the next day with a smug smile on her face and basically just flipped the letter over her shoulder at me resigning. I went, great, well, that's one more we don't need. Some of the ones that I've had have disappointed me, but each time I've got one, I've gone, okay, well, what did I contribute to that? Where has the environment led to this happening? Part of it's selection, because, and I'm going to put my hand up to that and say, well, I've been part of some of the selection of some of these people. But I can also say that out of the now 10 resignations, and I'm pointing to my right there is because I've got the work laptop sitting right beside me with the email in it. Out of those 10, only half of them have stayed in the industry. Now, that's telling. And if you look at the stats, and I saw a report, I think it's an REIA newsletter that came out about a month and a half ago that was saying that we are the 7th highest industry sector nationally. Of all employment categories, we are the 7th highest for turnover of staff. Our attrition rate is 23% annually. 1 in 4, or very close to 1 in 4 people will change jobs either within or outside of our sector in a 12-month period. Even the police forces, I've got mates who are very senior in Victoria Police, and they're saying, that's stupid, we're not even that high. I had out at an engagement party a couple of weeks ago with a really good mate of mine, 40-year police veteran. He said, same thing, he said, you know, we're just finding that the younger generation have a different expectation. We don't know what that is because we haven't been able to key into it. But they seem to think that they can just pick and choose the jobs that we send them to. And I think that's part of it. This is not a glossy, glorious, glamorous industry. It is glorious, it's just not glamorous all the time. We deal with people at their most sensitive. And at the moment, when we're dealing with, and I'm talking from a Victorian point of view, but I know most of this is felt nationally because your mortgage rates don't change one state to another. But we're dealing with increasing mortgage rates. We're dealing with increased compliance costs. We're dealing with massive increases in Victoria in land tax. We're also dealing with a hostile tribunal system. And that I know is pretty much across the board as well. On the other side, that's just your landlords. On the other side of it, the tenants are dealing with increasing costs of their food, their utilities costs, and their rents are all going up. Everybody is really, really sensitised at the moment to any shift in their living conditions. And when it comes to housing, and I've used this before, and I know Hermione's now using it as well, so thank you for picking up my idea here, Hermione. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think there's 8 steps on the hierarchy. Mm-hmm. The second lowest one, the bottom one is sleep, eat, sex, homeostasis. Basically, that's you coexist, your existence level. The next step up is your security level. And that's where we're dealing. We're dealing with people who, in a lot of cases, are struggling to put food in front of their families, whether it's a landlord or a tenant, doesn't matter because both of them are feeling the crunch. And when something shifts for them, when we're on the phone to them or they're getting an email from us, we're the ones that cop it. And that's not a real shift in the dynamic that I've seen in the 40 years I've been in this business, and May actually is the 40th anniversary of me starting. I don't know why. I don't know how I've still actually got the same colour hair as I had when I started, or any hair at all. But in the 40 years, I've never seen it as combative as it is at the moment. I think the rental crisis is not just a crisis of rental accommodation, it's a crisis of rental managers, of property managers. We're the ones that are copying it. Part of our problem is we want to fix everything for everyone straight away. We're a sector of people pleasers. We've got to stop being that person that thinks that we have to have that answer for them straight away, that we have to solve their problems, because in my case, we're not the problem, nor are we the solution, but we've got to try to find the solution, and they're not always immediate or apparent.
That's really great point there. And I have just had that exact conversation with my previous podcast guest, who is a property management business owner as well. And I was just saying, like, we're waking up at night time with all of these other people's problems. Go, oh, I forgot to send that notice. I forgot to send that breach. We're worrying about all this stuff that we actually can't control. I can't control that a tradesperson's taking 4 weeks to get to a property. I've sent him there. I've booked him in, but I can't control that. But I think a lot of it comes down to we're a bit scared at the moment of losing managements as well, because it's easy for them to jump ships to other agencies. And there's lots of people wanting to grab that management as well. And in my case, I've got former employees really looking to, take opportunities to take any of my clients off me. So you get into that scarcity mindset. You feel like you've got to be even more people pleasing than we already are. And then that's creating more stress for us. That's creating anxiety. That's not allowing us space to think clearly and logically. And, if you're a property manager who, like yourself, who runs and leads the departments, that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders to be wearing. So, you can kind of understand why people are not enjoying their job anymore and are wanting to leave.
That's right. Yeah. It's, as I said, this is not a glamorous industry. We make it harder on ourselves by being hard on ourselves. We've got to learn that, that we're not expected to have every answer straight away. I remember this is exactly what it was like 4 years ago when the pandemic first hit, and I was saying this on my posts that I wrote then. We can't expect of ourselves to have every answer to every solution, every problem straight away. We need to step away from that and stop injecting ourselves into it, because we've got to try to remain detached from it, not become personally involved, not think that the world's going to end if we don't solve the problem in the first phone call. And we've got to stop waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, Ms. Walker. You and I as business owners are different. We do that. That's part of the mantle that we accept. But from a property management point of view, do a data dump before you go home. Get it all out of your head. And even when you're at home, don't. And I've said this to my 2IC. Stop sending people emails at 10 o'clock at night because you're setting yourself up. Our role as property managers is different to that of a salesperson. We're not dependent on the next email, call, whatever it is, to earn a living. We're there as administrators and relationship builders and relationship nurturers. At some point, that's got to stop, and that's after business hours. We're not paid. Our salaries do not pay us outside. Once the door closes at the office, once we walk out the door, our salary doesn't pay us. It's all well and good to want to give good service. That's fine. I accept that, and I believe that you can give good service even just during office hours. Setting yourself up to even mentally give people answers outside of office hours, you're creating an expectation to them that you're always available, and that's unrealistic. And I know a lot of people now are going to be going, how dare he say that? Well, I got to tell you, kids, you need a life. You deserve a life. And being available to your clients all the time isn't giving you that. It's not giving you time to shut off. And this is one of the things I used to talk about with my coaching clients when I was running the coaching business up till late last year. If you don't shut off, you're going to burn out. And you're going to start to hate what you do, and you're going to leave. If you love this industry, stop working 18 hours a day, stop being available 18 hours a day, and start to get people to treat you with a little bit of respect for your time. I think it's simple. I mean, I don't pick up the phone except for one client, and that one client owns 5% of the business.
Yep.
But I don't pick up the phone to him past 5:30. He never rings me after about 6:15, so it's no big deal. And okay, yes, there's an argument that some people aren't available until after hours. Well, that's what email's for. And I don't actually accept that as an argument, because people are always available. If the problem is big enough for them to want to solve, they're going to be available.
Yeah.
But we've got to stop being the whipping boy. We've got to stop being the doormat for them and start putting some value on what we do and putting some value on our own time.
Help me out with a little problem that I'm experiencing then. You're very wise and lots of wisdom, and I always learn lots from you. So tell me, what do you do with clients who, so say you've got a lease renewal, maybe it's a compliance issue, you need their instructions on something, and you just cannot you've emailed, called, I even SMS. I'm like a stalker. I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm hounding them and I just can't get an answer from them. What's your advice or what do you do in that situation? If you are anything like me, you think you know your rent roll numbers. Well, I thought I did until I had a rent roll health check and I was quite literally shocked. The money I was leaving on the table was astounding. And this is not something that I'm proud to admit. There were missed management fees, let fees, advertising, and lease renewal fees not being charged, and properties even without bonds. And all of this was happening despite monthly audits being conducted in my business. So how did I uncover all these gaps in my valuable income? Well, I had a rent roll due diligence from my good friend Tazi, aka the Rent Roll Queen and founder of the Tazi Way, a specialist in rent roll due diligence, business valuation, and management rights. The Tazi Way is the innovative force driving the real estate industry. With 25 years of business and real estate acumen, they find gaps and risks in your agency to find undiscovered value. If you'd like to book your business in for a rent roll due diligence, head to the link in the show notes and mention That Property Mum for a 10% discount. If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmio is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmio isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative prop tech scale up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmio has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmio. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmio.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmio is KOLMEO.
If we don't hear from you within or before this date, this is the action we're going to take.
Yep.
Because it puts the onus back on them because you've told them this is the path you're going to take, and they've got the option then. Give them 3 days, 4 days, whatever it is. Just give them that chance to come to you and go, well, no, I don't want you to do that. But if you send the email and say the Monday, say, look, if I don't hear from you by close of business on the Thursday, this is what I'm going to do on Friday morning.
Yep, love it.
So whether it's a lease renewal, whether it's a rent increase, whether it's a service of a notice for whatever reason, put the onus back on them. Get them to take some responsibility. We're not here to continually chase them. We've got better things to do with our day. I mean, most of our time is spent herding cats, and that's part of the problem. We're allowing people to dictate to us when they get back to us. Now, some people are going to go, boy, is he sounding a little bit snarly and a little bit narky about it. I'm going, no, I'm just really firm on my expectations. And I've also got very clear boundaries around what I expect from my team and also what I expect from my clients. I don't expect my clients to be available to me all the time. That's what voicemail and email are for. And they know the same about me. Equally, I don't expect them to treat me with, or to treat my team with anything less than respect. And if I hear a phone conversation going on that starts to ring alarm bells for me, I'll step in. Mm-hmm. And I have stepped in. And I have told clients. And you notice I'm using the word client. I'm not differentiating between a landlord and a tenant because they're both equal to the equation. We cannot exist in our world without both of them. And landlords shouldn't think that they've got more of an upper hand than the tenant does because they're both in a contractual relationship with each other.
Yeah.
But I don't expect a client to treat us with anything less than respect. And if they start speaking badly to me or to my team, I'm going to put them in their place very quickly, really quickly.
Absolutely.
I'll do it gently, but I'll be very firm. They'll be very clear about what I've just said to them.
Yeah. Let me share a little quick story with you. I met an owner and a tenant at a property last week. The owner is interstate. She used to live in the property and she won't get any maintenance fixed. And she just keeps using this excuse. It's an older property. It's an older property. That's what you have to expect with an older property. So I managed to get her in the state, and the tenants who are absolutely livid, they're paying really high rent for our market for the property. And the major issue is that the water pressure when the hot water's on is like a dribble. Like, can you imagine? Like, we're coming into winter now. Like, it's just like a little tiny sprinkle. And so we had the owner there, like showing her, that, and then the other maintenance issues, which they weren't like major. There's a couple of electrical things. They weren't major issues, but the tenants more just wanted the owner to be aware that there's a lot of maintenance. Well, would you believe the owner threw me under the bus and my business and said, why have I not been informed about all this maintenance? And the tenant's like looking at me, and I'm looking at the owner like this, my mouth's open, going, are you kidding me? And I said, would you like me to send you the email trail for the amount of times that I have requested this maintenance to be dealt with by you? I said, are you actually throwing me under the bus right now? And she's like, I don't know about half of this stuff. Anyway, I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm the middle person here. Exactly what you just said. And tenants make the complaint. I pass it on to you. I wait for your actions and instructions. I follow up and remind you that we need to take action on this. I said, ultimately, it's up to you to make that distinction. And she turned around and said to me, I'm finding another agent. I was like, that's absolutely fine. I will not accept responsibility for this. But can you imagine, like, I'm the business owner, but you can imagine like a young property manager experiencing a owner like that?
That's right. With those owners, I had a couple of people come to me from interstate who said something similar. We've sort of got some very stringent regulation in Victoria around repairs and the upkeep of the property. Well, section of the Act that says you must keep the property in good repair. But there was a Victorian Supreme Court case in 2016 called Shields and Deliopoulos, which, whilst it was a Victorian case, is also a persuasive precedent interstate, and also I think might actually be a binding precedent for other courts in the country as well, because it's a Supreme Court case. You can throw that at an owner, because it said the guts of it was the owner's got to keep the property in good order, regardless of the rent that's being charged, the condition the property was in when the tenant moved in, whether there was any discount rent given before that, or the owner's own personal circumstances. So it basically means the tenant's got a right to high standard accommodation, which is perfectly reasonable.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. It is a given. But there are some owners, and the laws are always written to regulate the minority. We know that. I mean, and I've likened it to owners with road rules. You and I may not speed, well, they may not, but there are speed limits in this country, and we're fined if we go above those speed limits. Properties are no different to that. The maintenance and the responsibility for property is no different to that. It's a very small percentage of people who are the transgressors, but all of us now have to shoulder the weight of the legislation to make sure the properties are maintained. I've already let a couple of owners go for that because they're saying, oh, we don't want to keep them up. I'm going, okay, well, you can go to XYZ Real Estate around the corner because we don't want your business.
Yeah. But how do you, as you alluded to earlier, though, our property owners are struggling with cost of living, interest rates as well. Like the ones that haven't put budgets aside for maintenance and repairs. So, they've got no money to make some of these large. I've got some roofing quotes at the moment for clients, $40,000 for new roofs.
Yep. I've got one where the entire side of an apartment block needs to be taken off.
Yeah.
Imagine what that quote's coming in at. And that's because there's water ingress started off with one apartment, then we found another one. Then when we had the builders go out there, they looked at it and they looked up, and it's only a two-story building, so there's not a great many apartments that are affected, but it's still that entire wall, which basically affects a third of the apartments in the building. That entire wall is going to have to be reconstructed. So I've got 10 tenants to move out.
Wow.
But that's going to be a major, major cost. Now, look, unfortunately...
Tell them to come to Queensland to the sunshine. Sunshine State.
Well, right now I'm looking out my window and it is sunny down here, but I'll tell you what, it was bloody cold this morning. I think it was about 6 degrees. So you talk about your winter, I'll swap you. No, it's okay. I know what winters in Ipswich and Toowoomba can be like, so I'm quite across those. But repairs, yeah, look, really owners need to have a fund or access to funds. Now, it may mean that they've got to draw down on their mortgage to their own home. They may have to go and get a personal loan or dive into their offset account or whatever they've got there, but they need to maintain the property. It doesn't matter that they don't have the funds available immediately.
And it's not our problem either as property managers. Like exactly. We've identified it. We've got to fix it. You've come up with the money. But I feel sorry for them, and I feel like, I'm so sorry to have to bring this to your attention, but ultimately it's not I haven't created this issue. So
that's right. It's the law, and the law is an obligation. It's not an option. I go back to the speeding thing. You've got to stick within the law. You've got to maintain the property. If you don't, there'll be other penalties. Can you imagine one of these cases like your roofing quote guy ending up in QCAT? Probably be a better result than if he ended up in VCAT, because VCAT would be more than punitive. But you've just got to do it. Look, okay, you don't like it. Maybe you can come to some sort of payment plan arrangement with the contractor. But the tenant is required to, is entitled to expect to have high standard accommodation.
Yeah.
This is a contract. It's as simple as it is.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
I'd love to tell you, Ms. Walker, that that we get away with not fixing the roof, but unfortunately, the laws are telling us that this has to be done. We can't keep breaking the law because there'll be other penalties that apply, and I want to try to protect you from those.
Yeah.
So you've got to turn it around, turn the argument back on them, and make them aware that you're actually, regardless of how bitter the pill is now, you're actually acting in their best interests by saying, I'm actually trying to help you. You need to try to help yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to talking about, because we are running out of time, but talking about the profitability in rent rolls. We had a little bit of a chat before we jumped on about that, how much harder it is for the profitability, and you're involved in some acquisitions at the moment. Is acquiring rent rolls, is that a solution to the profitability right now? What are your thoughts around?
I think there's two areas we need to look at. Number one is fees, because the fees, the pressure on our fees, the downward pressure on our fees from a competitive point of view from other agents has to stop. We have to stop trying to knock each other off at the ankles, because it's a race to the bottom. And I wrote articles on this 10, 12 years ago. We're actually doing the entire industry a disservice, and we're actually damaging our businesses. We're paying a good price, a good multiple for the rent roll that we're about to acquire because their fees are at a decent level. But if that was full of 3 or 4 or 5% fees, we'd probably have gone, look, it looks okay, but our multiple is going to be well down on what we're paying this time. I think really, and this ties in to some extent to what's going on in the wider housing market, where there's a shortage of supply, particularly for rental properties, but also I'm seeing it because I still run a buyer advocacy business here just on referral. But there's a lack of stock. There's a lack of supply. There's very little new build going on. We're not going to see an immediate answer to the rental crisis, for want of a better way of putting it, because that's what the media is calling it, and you'd have to say to some extent it is. We're not going to see a solution to that inside the next 3 years. Coupled with that, we're seeing landlords selling their properties. They're selling them for a number of reasons. They're selling them because costs are too high. They're selling them because regulations are too tough. They're also selling them because they can get a damn decent price for them right now, so they're taking their profit and they're going. Now, those properties in the main are not coming back into the rental market. They're being sold to homeowners, whether it's second homeowners, whether it's downsizers, upsizers, first home buyers, it doesn't really matter, but they're being taken out of the market. Now, part of them are being sold to first home buyers. They're exiting, some are exiting the rental market, but not enough. And when you look at our average house size in the last, what was the figure I saw? it was about 20 years ago, our average household size was 2.8 people. Our average household size now is 2.2 or 2.3 people. So there's less people in a house, which means there are more people out in individual accommodation, thereby increasing the pressure more. But they're competing for less and less stock. And because there aren't new builds, because there aren't investors being attracted into the marketplace, we're finding that our existing rentals are actually under more and more pressure. Because they're under more and more pressure, because there are fewer of them, agencies aren't bringing on more rental stock in the main. So they're taking that rental stock or they're increasing their own rent rolls by taking rent roll from other people, just in small bites. I think really the way that most agencies are going to grow in the next 3 to 5 years and maybe longer is through mergers and acquisitions. That's basically going to be our way, because the profitability of a small agency is really, really, really small. If you're making 5% profit, you're probably at about the average. We're running at a bit more than that. I mean, at the moment, I think most agencies I know are running at less than 10. I'd like to be saying that we're over that, but at the moment, we're just holding our costs. And we're looking at bolting this other rent roll in. Even with borrowing costs, we're still going to be making profit. It's going to also mean that we've got a greater mass. So we're going to have far better market penetration in our area. But we've also got to look at the only way that any company is going to grow their share is to increase their fee base, increase their income base. And the way that we can do that at the moment is through a merger or an acquisition. And most companies are going to be going down the same path. I think a lot of the smaller operators are going to go back to being very boutique and very, very much owner focused. That's business owner focused, where the business owner is well and truly in there on the tools.
That's me right now.
Yep, it is. And because the pricing of staff, I mean, you'd hate to see my salary bill. You really would. And one of the things that I did when I got there, when I started this restructure, was I increased the size of everyone's portfolios. And by some of the portfolios, in fact, one of the portfolios went up 20%, but they got salary increases. And I'm talking salary because I don't pay wages, I don't pay award, because I think the award's anachronistic. If we want to consider ourselves professionals, we don't earn award wages. Mm-hmm. But we pay salaries. We pay salaries as professionals. I think the smallest increase that any of my staff got was 10%. The largest was 25%. And that was because he'd only been with the company a year. And I thought that he well and truly warranted an uplift in salary. Each of my portfolios is probably going to average around about, at the moment, I think the average would be about 180 per property manager. I can lift that to 200 or probably 220 per property manager, because they don't do end-to-end.
Yep.
I have a structure in place at the moment that is scalable, where my PMs concentrate on being in the office, mm-hmm. or being with their clients, being with their owners, and building and nurturing that relationship.
Yep, that's great.
And I've made sure that I've done that, because we're not property managers. We don't manage a property. A property is a static thing. It doesn't require management. What requires management is the relationships that hang off that. It's the landlord, and it's the tradies, and it's the OCs, the strata companies. That's where we need to be investing our time. That will also help us attract more property, but not in great numbers. We've really got, if we want to start increasing our profitability, there's only one way we're going to do that, is to grow. And the only way we're going to grow at the moment is to bring other businesses in, whether we as wholly owned entities within the one business, whether we bring them in as syndicates, whether they're joint ventures. There's a whole range of ways of doing it, but we've got to get to the point where we're talking about economies of scale. And we've got to get away from this idea that having a big rent roll with minimal staff is a good thing. It's not. You've got to have an appropriate number of staff. Your ratios have got to be right. That's going to come at a cost. Yeah. So you've got to look at the holistic approach to it, is to look at the whole thing and go, okay, we've got this much income. What do we want our profit to be? How do we engineer the company to produce that? And what else do we have to introduce to produce that?
Yeah, That's great advice. I love it. Thank you. You've shared so much amazing information there, and I would love to keep talking and diving into that brain of yours. But
Well, we have before.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But how can anyone who wants to, maybe if somebody needs to reach out, you've still got your coaching business, needs some support with their business struggles, how can they contact or connect with you?
Quite easily, all the contact details for me are still the same. It's still kirk@thepmcoach.com.au. I'm still running that consulting and coaching business, but on a much smaller scale. Mobile number is 0418 563 105. You can contact me there. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram as the_PM_coach. So I'm around. So,
Yep.
and I'm happy to talk, and I'm happy to help where I can.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your conversation today.
Kylie, it's been a pleasure once again. Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.